Okay, so you want to live on a private island. Your own piece of land surrounded by water, no neighbors, no traffic, no one telling you what to do. Just you, the ocean, and total privacy. And here's the part that surprises everyone. Buying the island might be the cheapest thing you ever do. You can find a small private island for less than the price of a modest apartment. But that low sticker price is a trap, because a bare island isn't a home. It's a patch of land in the sea with no water, no power, no way to get there, and no way to survive on it. By the end of this, you'll understand what an island actually costs, why the purchase price is almost a rounding error compared to what comes next, what it takes just to make a rock in the ocean livable, and why the sea itself is the one expense you can never fully control. Let's start with the purchase, because the numbers genuinely are lower than most people expect. The private island market is enormous and global, and prices range from shockingly cheap to astronomically expensive. At the bottom end, you can buy a small, undeveloped island, a lake island in Nova Scotia or Finland, or a tiny tropical cay in Belize or Nicaragua, for somewhere between $50,000 and a few $100,000. The global median for a private island sits somewhere around $2 to $5 million. And at the top, developed islands in premier locations like the Bahamas or Florida run into the tens of millions, with the most extravagant listings reaching well over $100 million. The Caribbean, and the Bahamas in particular, dominates the market, accounting for a huge share of the world's private island listings. But here's the first thing that separates island buyers from ordinary home buyers: financing. Banks are wary of lending against a private island because it's a strange, illiquid, hard-to-value asset that's difficult to sell if they ever had to repossess it. As a result, most island purchases are done in cash. So before you've built anything, you generally need the full purchase price in hand, plus a great deal more, because the purchase is only the beginning. This brings us to the single most important concept in island economics, and people in the industry have a name for it. It's sometimes called the 1.8x rule. The idea is that for an undeveloped island, the listing price is only about 55% of what you'll actually spend to make it livable. In other words, budget roughly 1.8 times the purchase price to reach a usable state. Buy a bare island for $1.5 million, and you should expect to spend something closer to $2.5 or $3 million by the time it can actually support life. For an already developed island, the multiplier is smaller, maybe around 1.2 times, because someone else already did the expensive part. That expensive part is what we need to talk about, because it's where the dream meets physics. An island has no infrastructure, none. Everything a mainland home takes for granted, you have to build from scratch and haul across water. Start with the most basic thing of all: fresh water. Most islands have no natural supply you can rely on, which means you need a desalination system, typically a reverse osmosis plant that turns seawater into drinking water. A serious desalination setup can cost anywhere from a couple $100,000 into the high hundreds of thousands, depending on scale. Then power. You have two main options, and both are costly. You can run a submarine power cable from the mainland, which can exceed $1 million per mile, or you can generate your own power on the island. Increasingly, owners choose solar with battery storage, because diesel generators are expensive to run and refuel. A full solar and battery system sized for a comfortable home or small resort can run from several $100,000 into the low millions. Then there's waste. You need your own sewage treatment and waste management, because there's no municipal system to connect to. Add a dock or a jetty deep enough for boats to bring in everything you can't produce yourself, and possibly a helipad or even an airstrip if the island is remote. And every single piece of this has to be transported to the island and built there, which is why construction on a remote island typically costs dramatically more than the same work on the mainland, sometimes 30 to 60% more, purely because of the logistics of moving materials and labor across water. The house that would cost $1 million to build on shore can cost far more once it's sitting on a rock, an hour's boat ride from the nearest hardware store. The best real-world illustration of all this is the most famous private island of them all, Richard Branson's Necker Island in the British Virgin Islands. Branson bought the then deserted 74-acre island in the late 1970s for a reported figure of around $180,000, a tiny sum, but the real cost came afterward. He reportedly invested on the order of tens of millions of dollars over the years, transforming that bare island into a fully developed retreat. And Necker shows exactly what full development looks like. It runs largely on renewable energy, with over 1/2,100 solar panels and wind turbines, its own reverse osmosis desalination plant, a sewage treatment system, and composting for organic waste. It even grows some of its own food and keeps chickens for eggs. This is what genuine self-sufficiency on an island actually requires. The island is essentially its own miniature utility company, farm and municipality rolled into one. Now let's talk about the costs that never stop, because buying and building are one-time expenses. Living there is forever. An island has to be staffed, and staffing is one of the largest ongoing costs. Someone has to run and maintain the desalination plant, the power system, the boats, the grounds, the buildings, and the household. Necker Island, at full operation, has been reported to employ around 100 people. Even a modest private island home needs a small permanent team just to keep the systems running and to prevent the relentless salt, sun, and humidity from destroying everything, because that's the other hidden cost. A marine environment is brutal on infrastructure. Salt corrodes metal, storms batter structures, and everything degrades faster than it would on land, which means constant, expensive maintenance. Then there's insurance, and here the numbers get uncomfortable. Insuring an island property for the building, for liability, and crucially for environmental and storm risk is far more expensive than insuring a mainland home. Annual premiums for a developed private island commonly run into the tens of thousands and can climb well into six figures depending on location and exposure. Layer on utilities, which are far pricier when you're generating your own power and water, plus fuel, plus transport of every supply, and the picture becomes clear. Industry estimates for the annual operating cost of a developed private island commonly land somewhere in the range of tens of thousands to a few $100,000 a year, and for a large staffed estate, considerably more. The island costs money simply to exist, every single year, whether you visit it or not. And now, we arrive at the risk that hangs over the entire enterprise, the one no amount of money can fully eliminate: the sea. Many of the most desirable private islands sit in hurricane zones, and a private island is uniquely exposed. In 2017, Hurricane Irma, a Category 5 storm, struck the British Virgin Islands and devastated Necker Island, destroying the great house and much of the infrastructure Branson had spent decades building. He then had to rebuild the entire island. This is the fundamental vulnerability of island ownership. On the mainland, a storm damages a neighborhood and emergency services arrive. On a private island, you are the emergency services, the infrastructure, and the recovery plan all at once, and a single major storm can erase years of investment overnight. Climate risk and rising seas only sharpen that exposure over time. There's also a legal dimension that catches buyers off guard. Owning an island does not mean owning the water around it. In most of the world, the sea and the seabed beyond the shoreline belong to the state, not to you. And in many countries, foreigners face restrictions on directly owning land at all, sometimes only able to hold long-term leases rather than true freehold title. And environmental laws may sharply limit what you're allowed to build how much vegetation you can clear, and how you can alter the coastline. So the fantasy of doing whatever you want on your own island collides with the reality that you're operating inside someone else's legal system, environmental regulations, and often a lease rather than outright ownership. So let's put the whole picture together and answer the real question. What does it actually cost to live on a private island? Start with the purchase, anywhere from tens of thousands to over 100 million, but call the serious middle of the market a few $1 million. Then apply the development reality, roughly 1.8 times the purchase price for a bare island, to fund the desalination, the power, the waste systems, the dock, and the construction, all inflated by the cost of building across water. Then commit to ongoing operating costs that can run from tens of thousands to several $100,000 a year, driven by staff, insurance, maintenance, and self-generated utilities. And accept that on top of all of it sits a permanent, uninsurable away risk that a single storm could demand you rebuild from scratch. There is, of course, one way to make the math work better, and it's the path many island owners take. You can turn the island into income. Branson rents Necker Island out for exclusive buyouts at rates that have been reported starting around $105,000 per night, and during certain weeks offers individual rooms. A private island run partly as an ultra-luxury rental can offset a meaningful share of its enormous running costs, though doing so means commercial management, staff, marketing, and sharing your paradise with paying guests. The purely private island, used by one family and never rented, is the most expensive version of all. A bottomless outflow with no return except solitude. And that, in the end, is the real economics of living on a private island. The purchase price is the seduction. The truth is that you're not buying a home. You're buying the obligation to build and forever sustain a tiny, self-contained civilization, water plant, power grid, waste system, farm, dock, and workforce on a piece of land the sea is actively trying to reclaim. The privacy is real, and for those who can afford it, genuinely priceless. But it is the one luxury where the ongoing cost of simply keeping the lights on and the fresh water flowing never ends, and where nature itself remains the landlord you can never fully pay off. You can own the island. You can never quite own the sea around it.